Kristen here from Scrapbook Corner, and I am hopping on here to share one of my spring Easterish themed journals that I've made. So the cover creation on this one was quite involved. It has a stuffer, I forget what they call that, not interface, is it? Whatever it is that you can add fabric to. So this is vintage fabric that was made from, I think it's either a vintage sheet or a vintage pillowcase. Now I can't remember. This is vintage bias trim, vintage gingham fabric. This is vintage lace. Now this part down here is a printable that's been recreated from vintage Sewn, and it's some bunnies. So bunnies spring, and these are vintage buttons, and this is backed on some felt. The tie here is not attached, so it's just, loose. The back of the journal has been made into where there is a back pocket. It is lined with more vintage fabric, and there is a vintage bingo card in here, and this like double-sided tag situation that I've made. It's got a whole bunch of fun elements and trims and vintage and whatnot and mixed media and all kinds of just stuff happening. So there's just some tags to get you started on that side. Then on this side, this is a good journaling card and just a plain tag. So that can just go in. You can float it, you can add it, you can do whatever you want. The front of the journal has a vintage Chanel pocket, and in that pocket, this one is a reproduction printable, but these are actual vintage scorecards, an entire full sheet of vintage Easter stickers. You can see that there is some age to these. I don't know if this has the year that this one was printed, but it's probably the 80s. And then this is a bias tape package. It was vintage. The bias tape has been removed, and it's full of this fun sequins mix. Now, I think this makes like a cool, you could glue this in, make a tuck spot. You could turn it into a bookmark. You can also cut it open and get the sequins out if you desire. So right off the bat, there's just lots of decorative elements on this page. Although it looks like my bunny lost his tail. I need to fix that. Okay, I will fix that. And in here is a tuck spot. But you can see that there's just kind of a whole lot going on here. Textures and papers and trims and sewing and all kinds of fun stuff. One of my cluster strips. This is Vintage Magazine that talked about setting your table for Easter. Again, more clusters, vintage music sheets, giant index tag, lace, fabric trim, stitching. I didn't sew down a ton of the Easter elements so that it wasn't specifically an entire Easter journal. Kind of try to keep it, Easter is a day and not an entire month vibe for everybody. But, these are bunnies, and bunnies are springy, and so that's kind of this fun trim. Again, this can be a tuck spot here. You can journal, do whatever. Vintage playing card. So this is a doily that's been folded into a pocket. There is vintage, you can see how, vintage the paper is here, as it's definitely showing its age and in perfect condition and a printable. This was from a vintage coloring book. So she's out here collecting eggs. Here is a, book pocket, what I'm talking about. Those things. And some groovy ladies. This is the center of this particular signature. I'm not going to go through all of it, but you can see that there's lots of ephemera, including things like this that I made. But you can, the owner of the journal can definitely dive into that. So more places to journal. You can turn these into pockets, tuck spots, flaps, whatever your heart desires. There's vintage tickets, handmade ephemera. Here's another tuck spot with a little shaker cluster. Some cute little baby animal fabric. This is glued down, but just looks so perfect there to me. I'm not going to dig out all of the things that are in this here glassine bag, but it's full of goodies and lots of good vintage vibes, or not just vibe, actual vintage in there. The back side, here's some more printables in this little pocket. This is just, more things from vintage books and magazines. There's a rain, go away. Cluster, April showers, bring May flowers, they say. Stitched blossom. A fun little bunny. Trim. Some more ephemera. And that is the end. So I kept this one to one signature, and originally I started off with actually 2 full signatures in this journal, and backed off and made it 1. And there is tons of room to grow in this one. If I'm pushing it down, you can see how thin it is, but it can easily expand with your own additions. I'm trying to get better at not making them so insanely full from my own additions that, it's tough on the new owner to squeeze it all in. But anyway, that is this journal. There has been a lot of prep work in this particular one, and a lot of vintage in this one compared to some of my other journals. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this journal, and until next time, I hope you have a great day.